of this? Okay, great. So we're going to look at what group work is, what a community is, and then we're going to do some activities around that. So if you can remember back to the first few lessons we did, can anybody define what a group is versus what a community is? Anybody want to take a shot?
I don't mind taking a shot.
Okay.
A group a group can be a community. A group is sort of any collection of people who either decide to be together or are together because they share a location or a interest or something like that. Whereas a community is, I think, geographically based. It's the area that you live in.
Exactly that. So a community usually has a geographical limitation to it. We'll see today that communities have also changed over time, and it doesn't necessarily mean that in all cases. All right, so can we have some ideas in terms of what group work is there, or what support groups are there that social workers would generally be involved in? Shakira, let's go with you, and then Sophia.
Social work, group works like Alcoholic Anonymous. Is that
Okay,
part of
it would
social?
be like Alcoholics or Narcotics Anonymous, where you're helping alcoholics, drug addicts, drug
Yes.
rehabilitated people to cope. Okay, good. Sophia?
I would say something like sporting clubs for youth, netball, soccer, rugby,
Okay,
child-related.
that's an activity-based group. So the group gathers together and they engage in an activity, right? It could be run by a social worker if it's a type of intervention. Also, that is possible. Sometimes it is used as intervention within communities. Jackie?
Maybe a medical support group, like an HIV support group or a um, disability support group and things like that. So people who have got the same struggles can get together and learn together.
Okay, perfect. And Pedro?
Maybe religious groups.
Okay, that could be where they support each other to understand something. There's also, so you and Sophia have a very broad definition of group, right? Which is good. They all qualify the same and they all go through the same process, right? Very common groups in social work would include parenting groups, education support groups, development groups, depression groups, anxiety groups, that all focus on dealing with these different issues. So what we're going to try and do today is look at the following: social work within the groups, what are the stages of a group that all groups go through, what skills do we need, what is a community, and what are the stages of community work. All right, we might only get through half of this today. Let's see how we go through. Right, so firstly, group work can be defined as assisting a collection of people who are dealing with a similar problem or issue. All right, so a group can include a family, it can be a therapeutic group, it could be peers. The important thing is that everybody in that group goes to get support from the same issue. They all have something there that keeps them in common, and that's what they're working on, and that's what the focus is. There's a very stunning support group. I'm just trying to see, what is its name? It's called Holding Space, and it's a support group for men, where it's men supporting men and a safe space for men to just speak and to just be. And that is run in Johannesburg at the moment. There are quite a few cities, but there's again, the concept of there's men coming together with the purpose of listening and just practicing listening with other men. Sometimes it could be a female support group. Sometimes it could even be a gender group. All right. So we get types of groups like we discussed. There's self-help groups, educational groups, therapeutic groups, task groups, and social action groups, right? Let's get into group dynamics. So group dynamics include the following. How do people talk? How do they interact with each other? Is there a sense of belonging to the group, and how do we create that? Right? And the influence that a group has on individual members, and in turn, what the individual members have in terms of influencing the group. And this comes to behaviors, practices, beliefs, and how all of those dynamics come together to create this third entity, which would be the group. All right. So there are 5 group stages, basically. Number 1 is we form and we plan and we create a group. Right? The easy stage, that's very paper-based generally, right? It's everybody comes together and the group is now created. At some stage, we have the second group stage, which is storming. And this is where there's conflict within the group. That doesn't mean people are fighting with each other. Generally, this could mean that the issue of conflict is brought up within the group. There might be interpersonal conflict also, right? But usually it's a conflict point, something that we are fighting against or something that we are going to tackle, right? That's the storming part of the group. Then it's the norming group. This is where roles are defined, and then only does trust begin. So once everybody knows what everybody does in the group, then only does trust begin within the group setting. Afterwards, it's performing. So now that everybody knows how the group works, what the group rules are, what we're going to address, what the culture of the group is, what the rules of the group are, we've got the group going, then you start working towards the group, and finally the group is adjourned, and there's a closing of the group. So the group has reached its goal, or they've reached the end of their program, whether it's time-based or goal-based, and this is the closing of it. So in the forming stage, the first stage, right, we need to do a few things. And this is quite important because one of your tasks is to run a group for your portfolios. So this is quite an important lesson for that. So number 1 is we plan the group and we get started, right? That's what it means to form, right? So I want you to start thinking a bit in your head of if you had to create a group today, all right? You were tasked that next week, Wednesday, there's a group that needs to be running. What would it look like, right? Just sort of do the mental activity with it. Right? Ask yourself, what is the purpose of the group? What is the role of this group? And I want you to be very careful here. And if you say and, this and that, remove it. Then you're talking about 2 groups. I want you at this level to be very, very clear on what you are addressing, right? Are you addressing education? Are you addressing support for abused women, or women seeking business advice, or something to that effect? Try and keep it at this stage very simple to 1 task, because as soon as you replicate out and use and, right, you in essence running 2 different sections together. Unless you're very good at building bridges, that can be quite tough. Okay, so you've got your group in your head. I want you now to spend some time working out how often should that group meet, right? What is the length of each meeting? And overall, how many times should that group meet in order to reach your end goal? So in order to reach the purpose of that group, how many times do we meet? How many times a week or a month? What's the frequency? And what is the duration of the meetings? Sorry, give me a second. Right, then the facilitator usually takes a massive lead within the stage. All right, so this is where you shine most, because you're forming the group, the format of the group, the structure of the group, you brainstorming what the rules of the group and how we're going to establish the group. All right, so I want you very quickly to pitch to me, if you had to start a group, what would the purpose be? Right, let's measure you on purpose. We want to measure you on purpose. I want to measure you on how long they'll meet, how many times they meet, and what's the duration, right? And 2 ground rules that you will have for that group specifically. All right, so let's do this. Shakir, let's start with you. What group would you have to start? If you had to start a group by next week, what group?
Post-divorce for men.
Post-divorce support group.
For men, yeah.
Okay, for men. All right, so
For men.
yes, so that is a very clear purpose, right? Can you see that? It's post-support for men, post-divorce for men, and we provide support. That is a very, very clear purpose. Good on that. How many times do you, oh, sorry. What is the purpose?
Once a week.
So
Once a week.
Before that, what is the purpose of the group?
The purpose is to finding yourself. That means post-divorce. Post-divorce. What baggage you carry, all those things.
Okay.
Finding where you went wrong so that you don't repeat your mistakes, blah, blah, so on.
Okay, so it's a very introspective process. Now, how many times do you meet? How long is your program?
Once a week, someone brings the chop, someone brings the vors.
Yes, I like it already. I'll get divorced just for that.
Once a week for the first 6 weeks, something like that.
Okay. And how many meetings do you feel? I mean, obviously you won't know if you're fit off the end, but how many meetings do you feel it will take for people to get to the end of it where they feel that they reached the goal of the group?
Each case will be dealt differently. I mean, some guys will be more traumatized than the other. Some guys will take one meeting and it's done.
But your program, how long would it last?
6 weeks minimum.
6 weeks minimum. Okay, yes. Perfect. And how many hours will we meet for each time?
From 8 till 8.
Okay, so it's a
on a Friday.
Okay, and finally, what 2 ground rules would you have for that?
No drugs, no alcohol.
Okay. You need to be
and
sober.
No weapons. I don't know.
Okay, I mean, you're having a bunch of testosterone-filled people come in. I like it. Okay, that could be 2 quick ones. Perfect. Safia, what do you have? What group is it and what's the purpose?
The group is parent effectiveness training.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and so we deal with issues like discipline, understanding the child, conflict, tantrums, blah, 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 blah.
Okay, and what is the purpose of the group? If you could summarize it to one sentence, what is the purpose of the group?
For parents to understand the behavior of their children and to respond in a manner that is conducive to their growth, their emotional intelligence, and their sense of humanity.
Okay, perfect. How long will they meet? How long will this program take to run?
Yeah, so I'm also on the 6-week story. Obviously, some people will stay behind and new people will join in. But the content, I feel, should last about 6 weeks. If you go a little longer than that, they become bored. And so maybe if they still want to stay on and do it again as a refresher, you just add in a little more information every time.
Okay, I like that very much. And then finally, what 2 ground rules would you have that are unique to that group?
No hogging.
Okay.
Number 1.
Tell me somebody who's been to group sessions without having something.
You know, I hate it when there's one person that wants to respond to everything and has a story about everybody's story that's better than that. So number 1 would be no hogging. And number 2 would be respecting opinions, active listening when somebody's speaking, that vibe.
Okay, I like it. That sounds like a decent group. Yeah, perfect. Jackie, what group do you have?
I thought I should maybe start an educational group for people training to be lay counselors next week.
Okay, perfect. What's the purpose of the group?
Educational, primarily.
Okay. And is it practical skill, theoretical skill? What within education? Like, how
A
does the
bit of
group know
both.
they've reached their goal?
A bit of both. So there will be some active training. So there will be some information that will be shared, and then there will be some what do you call it? Sort of engagement, role playing, that kind of thing, so that the material that they cover by themselves in the week, that becomes more real because they've actually practically done it.
All right. And what would the length of each meeting be? How often would they meet, and what would the total of the program be?
They would meet every Tuesday evening on Zoom for 2 hours at a time, and we will run for 6 weeks. We will finish because the course that they're doing is 6 weeks.
Okay, perfect. And what 2 ground rules would you have specific to that?
You have to come to the classes prepared. There's a certain amount of work you need to do before each class. And everybody has to be engaged in the group. Everybody has to speak at some point. You can't be a silent member of the group.
Okay. Okay, so you cannot be a silent member of the group. All right, so this demonstrates to us that, number one, the purpose of your group should be quite important and should be quite clear, because it defines a lot of how the group works. And each group has its very specific ground rules. Some ground rules are universal, but groups should have their own rules and structured according to their purpose. All right. So, oh, sorry, I did skip some people. Almin, do you want to share something about groups, or are you just going to observe a little bit today? Okay, that's perfectly fine. Martha, the same with you. Would you like to share something about which group you would start, or are you happy just observing for the day?
I'm just observing.
Okay, that's perfect. All right, feel free to interrupt at any point if you have a question about the material. Okay, so we've now got our group, right? And we've got the plan of our group, how we're going to meet, all of this, and now we start. So conflict emerges within the group, right? There could be initially a difference in understanding of the group's purpose and member roles that can lead to friction. All right. Generally, with small groups like the ones you're talking about, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. A lot of the storming stage problems that can arise within group development comes from not having a very clear purpose, right? So if your purpose has "and" in it, right, you're going to have a problem with managing group purpose and member roles. Also, members will test and challenge the authority of the facilitator very often. So, Sophia, your group has a no hogging rule, and you'll find that often what would happen there is people will try and test it and see how much time can I actually speak for before I get called out on it, right? So it's one of those very practical things that come through. The flip side of the storming side of stage is that relationships are usually established, right? So I know when I go into a group, I immediately know who I'm going to like and who I'm going to dislike. Everybody does that, right? And those are the interpersonal relations, like a little web underground. But overall, the facilitator establishes the tone of the group, right? So let's quickly look at tone of the group, the color of the group, right? Shakira, what's the tone of your group?
So I would imagine it to be very casual.
Casual, okay.
Casual. Remember, you're there to heal. You're not there to complain on how you understand. Obviously, that will be part of the purpose right in the beginning and establishing all of those things.
Good.
And
no whining is allowed. Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
no, there's no. I would say, the itching word with the B. So yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So your group's tone wouldn't be one of bitching, complaining, moaning, it would be
It'll
more
be like a men's retreat to
casual.
heal.
Okay, perfect. So your tone is more casual in nature. Sophia, what's your tone?
You moved, we lost you.
Sorry, do you have me back? Sophia, what's your tone?
Yeah, we got you back.
Huh?
What's your tone of the group? If you had to set a tone for your group.
Very dramatic. Lots of role playing going on.
Okay.
Lots of visual material being shown. Very interactive exercises with in the group with members that they don't know. Yeah, it has to be playful. It has to cross. The toxic parenting is not on.
Okay, so yours would be very vibrant, very information filled, very busy, very involved, right?
Very playful, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Jackie, what would your group be?
Mine would be quite formal as it's an educational group. So while there would be discussions and things like that, it's much more of a formal, we're here for the purpose of learning and getting through a certain amount of material.
All right, so
It's so serious, Pastor.
I want you to
You
notice
wouldn't
something.
cope. You wouldn't cope.
There are two things that come into play when we do the tone of the group. Number one is the purpose of the group, defines 50% of the tone. The other one is the facilitator of the group. Your own way of learning and your own way of teaching and getting people to do things influences your group. So Shakira loves casual types of gatherings where people are more relaxed, right? Jackie likes a lot of structure, right, to how she teaches. And Sophia likes a lot of interactive, getting down, getting practical, and all that. So your personality and the way you engage will influence the group. And it's good to match whether your group purpose and your personality match. You might be inspired to help a group or to create a group that can reach a goal, but if it doesn't match your purpose and your personality, you're going to set the wrong tone for the group. All right, so now the group's rules are set. We have our roles and we get to the norming stage. So this is now where the group norms start arising, right? Number one, the norms become more clearly defined. People have pushed boundaries. People have been to 2 or 3 meetings. They now know what they can share, what they can't share, how we share, and now it's more defined. Members start trusting each other, right? So members start being able to share more with each other, and you get group cohesion. So people start thinking of this is something for this group. This is a special group, right? And that's quite important. And only then does the group actually start moving towards the objective, right? The group doesn't, on the first 2 meetings, actually make a lot of progress towards the objective. Right, then we get the performing stage, right? And this is the core of the group. So when you think of a group, this is where you usually see the group, right? So this is where they're working towards their outline goals. People start developing a sense of confidence with each other, trust. And then members might start disclosing painful personal issues or traumas that they want to bring to the group. And at this stage, we measure it through the group cohesion and participation. So if everybody's participating in your group and there's a good cohesion within the group, generally you've got the performance stage moving. The goal then becomes we're moving towards the termination of the group. Sorry, is this terminating? This label is. Yes, I probably did this label. Sorry. Right, so we're moving towards the termination of the group. Now the termination is covered. The group has met now for 6 times, and we know that we only have two or three more meetings left before we need to go our separate ways. So what happens is people start building anxiety around it. People start emotionally disconnected. So it's like a relationship. You are emotionally disconnected before you physically divorce the person or leave the person. The same happens, sorry. The same happens with individuals. One of the biggest tasks there is then evaluating what the experience of the group is and what more can be done or what needs to be other groups that are formed from it. All right, so when it comes to facilitation skills, there are a few we need to learn, right? Just before we go into there, no, let's go straight into it and we'll practice a bit. Right, so these are the names for it: connecting, focusing on process, queuing, supporting, blocking, and social empathy. Right, so let's practice these a little bit. Connecting, right? Can anybody give me an idea of what a connecting skill is within a facilitation skill of a group? Let's start at Pedro.
Yes, well, that's good.
I'm trying to think actually.
Okay, if you want to build connection with people, what are the easiest ways to?
Oh, Ruby, to ask them questions, get them engaged with each other.
All right, so connecting does exactly that. That's what do we have as tools to get people engaged with each other, to get people to ask questions, and what questions are we asking that allow people to share, right? In Shakira's group, you would have activities such as bringing the brine meat to the group. That's a connecting type of activity. So what is the activity within your group? Only very advanced groups are the ones where we all just gather and share, like a AA meeting group, for example, right? And even
Hello,
within that,
I'm
sorry?
Hello, my name is Sophia. I'm an alcoholic.
Yes, exactly, right? And even in there, you have a connecting point, and that's it, right? You introduce yourself to the group, you introduce yourself as an alcoholic to the group, and that connects you to the group, right? But it's a bit less structured in terms of it's an advanced type of group. People are just sharing. It's a free form group, right? I think there are many free form groups that we have mentioned today, but it is a specific type of group where the goal or the purpose of the group is merely to support, nothing else. And it's a very complicated type of dynamic to work into. I prefer a group with a purpose and a goal. It's just easier to manage.
I
Okay,
think
so then
also,
yes, okay.
I think most of the connecting happens with the interaction and introduction. So, how are you? What is your name? Where you're from? Can you tell me a bit about you?
Icebreakers, maybe.
Yeah, icebreakers also, yes. Like drawing
Yeah.
your face on top of your head, things like that.
Yeah, definitely. So we had in one of the groups that I attended recently, we had my name is Nick. I come from South Africa, and this is how I walk, or this is how I talk, or this is my move, right? Which is a very physical type of connecting. But once everybody had done it, we all felt a bit humiliated together. We all felt together in this type of setting, and it did help us connect better. Then
Were
we
they
get
afraid
to,
when they heard you come from South Africa?
sorry?
I was gonna ask the same question.
Were they afraid when they heard you come from South Africa?
Very much. I got a lot of group cred from it. I set my own tone with right. Okay, so then we have focusing on process, right? So this goes back to one of the first slides we looked at, which was the norms of the group. So groups are defined by ritual, right? People love ritual. People love knowing what's coming next. This is how we do it. This is how we open the group. This is how we address this. This is how we close the group, right? Focus on process also means that the facilitator needs to know what the end goal is so that we can work out the steps and guide people through that process. Right? Going back to AA, part of the process, for example, is that we all listen when you share and we do not have cross talking. So we don't talk across to each other, we talk to the facilitator, we talk to the group as a whole. Right? Every now and then, the focus has to be brought back to that. Right? Groups can get very confused and misled along the way, right? And the facilitator's role then is specifically to bring us back to the process. Remember, guys, we're here to learn about this, and today's focus is this, so let's get on with this. Remember, we do not cross-talk, we come this way or that way. Right, queuing. Right, so queuing is where we prepare the group for what is coming next. Right? We do it in 3 ways. Number 1, we queue how people comment, right? So if 2 people want to comment, we say, let's listen to Shakira first, and then let's listen to Sophia. Then there's queuing of the process. Today we're doing this. Remember last week we did that, and next week we're going to do this, right? And then overall, there's the queuing within the group. Right? How the group does their things. What are the cues you need to follow to know that we're now going on to the next step? And then supporting. Sophia, if you had to say supporting as a facilitation skill, what is the biggest element of supporting within the group?
Supporting.
Yeah. Like how do you show support best in a group? Let's say you are doing a group on women who are going to start a business. Women that have come, let's say you're running the female group of women coming out of the divorce, right? Let's make it a lot easier, right? What is the biggest support tool that you can offer in that group where the group can support each other?
Probably form a database and a network with resource groups involved in that type of work, and do follow-up checks.
That's external, and that's very good. That's very good.
But in the group you're speaking
within a group, so within the meeting itself, once the group is gathered together, how do we best support?
I suppose I'll do what you do, like acknowledge what the person says, add a little bit more to that, and thank them for the wonderful idea and build on further from there.
Yeah.
I'm studying.
So don't do that. That is very dangerous.
You
right,
do.
So supporting is the best way to do it is with active listening. All right. So when somebody's talking, we listen. We don't listen to respond. We just listen. Right? We listen, we take a breath afterwards, and we just allow it to sit. Very often in groups, right? And it's an activity you could do with your group one day when you're running it. There's a nice activity that I like using, and it's called the 10 minutes together group activity. And you speak for 5 minutes to someone else in the group, or you just speak to 5 minutes to the group, right? Depending on how you want to do it, in pairs or to the group, depending on what your group structure is. No one can offer advice. It's a long time. No one can offer advice. Your job is to just sit and listen. All right. No advice, nothing else. You just sit and listen and allow the person to feel that they've been heard. So that is the big support tool, is active listening, not listening to reply, not listening to solve the problem either, just listening. Then you can have external support. Sorry, yes?
I said so simple, eh?
It's so simple. And the most powerful groups are the ones that just practice listening. Right? They are the ones that last the longest and have the highest rates of success. Because at the end of the day, just speaking out in front of people about something that's on your mind or something that you've come across is already in itself a huge process for the person. All right? Blocking. Right. So blocking happens in 2 ways. Number 1, we block certain things. So just like your norms or how we do things, blocking is how we don't do certain things, right? So we don't allow crosstalk and we stop it. As a facilitator, if you can see the group is running towards or the group tension or the group interaction is building towards something that's not the intention of the group, you block it. I'm going to come back to that in a second. Now,
Okay.
the other form of blocking, which is just modern or more released, is we block into themes, right? So we're still working within phase 1 of the group, guys, which is we're getting to know each other. Remember, in the next 2 weeks, we'll be working on practical activities and each of you will be presenting something to the group, right? That's blocking, right? Almost like process support. Let's go back to blocking negativity in the group. So let's say a very common group is trauma support groups, right? The purpose of a trauma support group is to provide support for people that are going through trauma in order to have them reintegrate into society, for example, right? Now you have 5 or 10 women and they all meet once a week, or even a depression group, they meet once a week. And what happens? We start sharing stories of our suffering, right? And there is a place for it and it's good. But as a facilitator, you need to notice when the group has moved away from healing from the trauma towards just comparing trauma, right? Which is a huge risk. Shakira, the same with your group, right?
Yes.
It can easily fall into the trap of men just comparing how terrible their wives are and how terrible their lives are and how much suffering they're going through, right? Which does have a place. Sorry?
Like a dying corner.
A dying corner. That's it, right? So we try and avoid the whole group becoming wrapped up into comparing badges of trauma, badges of suffering.
However, just on that specific point, that could actually be part of supporting the next person, that you're not alone in this.
Yes, 100%. So it does have a place. It has a very important place. But it cannot become the whole session. And you as a facilitator need to be on top of that to see that, okay, guys, I see for the last few weeks, we're sort of trying to, you would never say it, we're trying to outdo each other's suffering. Right? So what do we do in that case? We bring attention to it and say that, we acknowledge that everybody's journey has been very different. And everybody has suffered here. And we hold that suffering together. Right. However, let's look at from when we share from now on, I want you to include something else of this has been my suffering, but this is what I have learned. Right. Or this is something I would tell somebody else going through this process. So you start changing the form of the dialogue and the form of the sharing within the group. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. And social empathy, that is basically ties into the listening. It ties into we listen. We don't solve the problem necessarily, right? You're not a therapist in this group. No one is. This group is to provide support so we can listen. We can give ideas when we are asked to give ideas. We can give an opinion when we are asked to give an opinion. We don't volunteer it. Right? Also, we try and understand the person in completeness when they are sharing. Right? So it's not what are they saying and how it affects me, but what are they saying and from where is this coming from? What is the holistic view of this person? Let me just sorry. Perfect. We're going to come back into group work. Let me just fast forward a bit. I want to see if there is. Okay, so let's not get into community just yet. Let's focus a bit more here with skills. Okay, so we're going to do the first activity, right? We're going to split into groups, but you see, this is the problem. Okay, so we're going to have a group of 3, group of 2. You know, the shared Zoom is killing my words here, Sophia. Okay, fine. That's perfectly fine. We're going to do it in a different way. Sophia, you'll have to do this activity with Shakira, which is a bit weird
Okay.
to do. And I'm going to put Martha in the group with you. All right, I'm going to split you into 2 groups. Basically, what we're going to do is you're going to start a timer, right? And somebody's just going to share something of their day. That is it, right? But they cannot, of the day, share whatever comes to mind that you want to share with the group of your day. All right?
Got it.
You cannot stop talking for 2 to 3 minutes. So let's make it 2 minutes, right? No, let's make it 3 minutes. So for 3 minutes, you cannot stop talking. You just have to keep talking. Right? At the end of it, the other person just says, thank you. You both take a breath together, and the next person shares for 3 minutes. And we just sit with that for a minute. Okay? So we're not giving feedback, nothing of it. We're just practicing attentive listening. I want you to maintain eye contact with the person, well, as much as possible, right? When they're talking to you. I want you to look at your internal dialogue. What is happening inside of you? What are you saying to yourself whilst that person is talking? All right? And how did it make you feel just listening and sitting with whatever that person brought to you? Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
Let's split people up. Breakout rooms. We're going to create 2. We're going to assign people manually. Right. We're going to put Shakira. 2. Okay, perfect. I'm going to open the room. I'm going to give you guys 10 minutes, 5-6 minutes to do this, and then we go. Okay, so it should have popped up on your screen already. There we go.